A formerly vaccine-hesitant mother is imploring people in Alabama to get vaccinated after experiencing some pretty personal tragedy. So now, the mother is Christy Carpenter, and she points out the fact that her son, 28-year-old Kurt Carpenter, was otherwise healthy and initially had believed that COVID-19 was a hoax. She and other family members were also hesitant to get vaccinated because they believed that the vaccine was created too quickly. Carpenter is now suffering from long-haul COVID herself, while Kurt died on May 2nd after spending 2 months on a ventilator. His last words were reportedly, quote, "This is not a hoax, this is real." Devastating. Absolutely devastating. Now, look, so let me get to the two important talking points here, okay? For one, vaccine is a hoax. Or, I'm sorry, not vaccine, but COVID-19 is a hoax. Well, we know where that came from. We hear it from the right wing all the time. Politicians, you had Donald Trump, you had members of the conservative media who have told people, oh, don't worry, COVID-19, not real. It's all political. It's all made up. Democrats, China, Wuhan, don't worry. Even if you get this, it's just like the flu. If you're young and healthy, you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Did you notice that they have all sorts of mixed messaging, by the way? Like, they don't have a unified message. It's just throwing shit at the wall and, trying to figure out what sticks. Okay? So now, the guy was 28 years old, apparently young and healthy, according to his mother, and understand that that's important because that is the demographic that has fueled the surge in cases and in deaths. This is not old people in the hospital, 50 and 60 years old, 70-year-old, 80-year-old, whatever. No, this is mainly people in their 20s and 30s and 40s. Relatively young people. This is a group that conservatives have long convinced. Conservative media said, oh, don't worry, you don't need the vaccine. You're young and healthy. You'll be fine. Well, it turns out, no, they're not. That's not happening. Now, the other talking point I've heard is unfortunately from even, smart people. And that's, oh, well, the vaccine was rushed. It came out too fast. It's experimental. Okay. So now this came out during the Trump administration, and I'll admit, I said, whoa, I'm not sure if I trust that. But then I realized I was being a dipshit. And guess what? When you're dumb, when you have a dumb take and you realize that it's a dumb take, you can go back, and this is the beautiful thing. You can go back and say, okay, that was really dumb. I now have the facts. I've looked up the facts. Turns out this thing wasn't rushed at all. I mean, as far as the science goes, okay, yes, Russian development to get into as many, in as many people's arms as possible. Yes, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you need during a crisis, during an emergency. So now the thing is that you should remember as well is that no politician had any part of this vaccine. Why? Well, it's because it actually went fast. Like if politicians were in charge of it, we'd still be waiting on a vaccine, to be fair. But okay, scientists came up with this vaccine. Scientists that use public funding, public research on mRNA, for example, has been around for about 3 decades. These vaccines are based on that. And, when you consider how long we've actually been looking at that and how many resources that were thrown behind this vaccine, billions of dollars, the top scientific minds, and of course, basis in research that we had already had. And yeah, it turns out it's not that much of a rush when you've got this massive amount of resources behind it. You can do things. It turns out we as a country can do some amazing things if we actually set our minds to it and our resources. Imagine, for example, what would happen if we actually turned our full attention towards eliminating hunger or homelessness or implementing single-payer healthcare or doing something about climate change. That's a better comparison. These things are possible because we have the resources and the minds to do it. This is actually a pretty good success story of how fast we can get this done and do great things if we focus on doing the great things. And in this case, again, it was an emergency. And the reason that there were so many resources behind it is incentive, right? Well, the donors, politicians, they didn't want to, shut down the country. So get things out as fast but as safe as possible. And I get that, And so as far as safety is concerned, well, we've already had millions of vaccines that were administered already safely with a minimum of adverse reactions. And so that's good. And it turns out the odds are you're much more likely to get COVID without a vaccination, and it's much more likely to be severe. And so, and compare that, of course, to the very minimal chance of having an adverse reaction with the shot. It's almost like it's much harder to get COVID-19 when you've had a vaccine, which is the whole point of the vaccine. Just think about it that way, okay? Now, what's interesting is earlier saw today, because conservative media also goes about, breakthrough shots breakthrough infections, right? Oh my God, so you get the COVID vaccine and you get COVID anyway, so what's the point? Okay, well, let me give you some numbers here. Turns out symptomatic breakthrough of cases of COVID-19 are incredibly rare. They actually represent about 0.98% of the nation's vaccinated population, according to an unpublished CDC document obtained by ABC News. The internal documents reportedly determined that roughly 152,000 symptomatic breakthrough cases have occurred as of last week, while more than 156 million Americans are fully vaccinated, meaning, again, if you do math, 0.098% are reporting more severe infections. So, very, very unlikely to get COVID-19. That comes with symptoms if you had the vaccine. So just do it. Now back to Christie, right? So now she has a message for Alabama, which is currently America's least vaccinated state, with about 33.9% of eligible adults that are fully vaccinated. And vaccinated people also, by the way, account for more than 95% of current COVID hospitalizations in Alabama. Here's what she said, quote, "It took watching my son die and me suffering the effects of COVID for us to realize we need the vaccine. We did not get vaccinated when we had the opportunity, and I regret that so much now. If Kurt were here today, he would make it his mission to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Kayla, his sister, and I are carrying out that mission in his memory. If we can help people, help keep people healthier and possibly save lives by encouraging others to take the vaccine, and Kurt's death was not in vain. Life is a precious gift from God." So, you know what else is a gift? Our intellect. That intellect went on to create vaccines. Just say, look, here's the thing, all right? So Christy and I are absolutely united in purpose. This story is not to rag on her for making bad decisions. No, it's to actually show that this thing is real. And to show that people who do not get vaccinated are suffering. And that these people are sharing their story to say, please, 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 don't do what I did. Don't do what I did or we did. Get the vaccine. There is something available now that will help you and that could save your family. Please do so. Take it from the people who used to not be believers. Because it turns out that COVID-19 has a real interesting way of making you into a believer. That it is real, that it's not a hoax, that it is deadly, and that you should get vaccinated. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.